We are going to have a really special and important keynote and words from somebody that has a legacy here in the state and in Newark as somebody that has been fighting for our communities for a long time. And I would just like to welcome her to the stage, Maria Lopez-Nuñez. And I'll just pass it on to you.
All right. There go my friends trying to embarrass me. Okay. See, it's hard to have a team behind you. That's what it feels like. Hi, everybody. I'm Maria Lopez-Nuñez. I'm the head of organizing at the Ironbound Community Corporation. And so, damn, Melissa gave me these notes, right? What am I supposed to talk to y'all about? I thought half of you would be gone, and it would make my job easier. But clearly not. The room's full, so go NJEJA. It is so incredible to be able to sit here in Newark to talk about waste, right? To be able to actually talk about what trash means, talk about incinerators, something that, I'm looking around, I know a lot of you don't live in Newark, and you probably don't live near an incinerator. You get to throw out your trash. Maybe you're recycling, you feel good about recycling. I'm here to crush dreams today, Definitely here to crush dreams. So maybe I'll start with myself, right? I grew up in Bushwick, and I grew up in Bushwick before gentrification, okay? I came to Newark, obviously, I got displaced. We got a notice in our building. The rent was doubling overnight, and we were poor. We struggled a lot of having the lights be unpredictable. When I came home from school, I didn't know if the lights would work, if the gas would work. And I played my whole childhood, in this building, because I grew up kind of in the same building in Bushwick before I got kicked out. Next to us was the textile factory. And I thought that the stuff coming out of the textile factory was cool, right? Because it looked blue or green. It was like a haze. I had no idea that I was just breathing in stuff that was scarifying my lungs. So now I get winded fast, I have asthma. Asthma that had gone away when I was in college at Drew University, where you could feel that the air was different. And I remember taking the train from Newark, actually, right, over to Drew and realizing, man, the further you get away from Newark, the more people have lawns, right? Like, if you're in Newark, nobody has any green space in front of their house. But the further away that you get away from our city, the more you have green space right in front of you. And then you start seeing big trees, and the trees get older and older until you're in Madison, New Jersey, places where they get to throw out their trash and never think about it. And it smells differently. I was like, what the hell? Discrimination is not always, people getting shot in the street or getting thrown out of their homes. Because at the time, I was obviously realizing racial justice is something to fight for. It's where I wanted to spend my life energy in. And I thought I would be more like fighting the police, and I ended up really being concerned about why does our air smell different? Like something about that felt really insidious. It wasn't as obvious, but it was insidious that we get to grow up around poison, right? The options that are given to Black and brown communities in this country are just disposable, right? We're the disposable people. Everything you buy, I don't care if you spent $1,000 on it, or you spend 99 cents on it, you're gonna throw it out, all right? I challenge you on this. You're not keeping your shit. You're gonna throw out the cheap plastic stuff that you buy, or the expensive plastic stuff that somehow you got convinced was vegan leather, right? You're gonna throw it out, and it's gonna get put on a truck that then ends up in a Black and brown community. And so all of that, the fact that we cannot exist without participating in the waste system, means that we're all interconnected for better or for worse. And when I started this work, I was like, I'm not gonna work with no white people, right? I'm gonna be honest. Because I grew up in the hood, right? Like I grew up where the only white people I interacted with were my teachers, and I felt like they hated me. They called me cream of the crop, and they reminded me that no matter what I did, even if I came to the top, I would still be crap, right? Like my honor teacher would tell me that. And so when we're talking about waste, I also don't want to get lost here. It's all connected. Because the waste is not just like the fact that we treat our stuff as disposable, is that we've treated groups of people, particularly Black and brown people and indigenous communities, as disposable. They're as disposable of the stuff you get on Amazon on a whim because you were kind of bored and you had an itch, so you opened up your app and looked for something to buy. And then you're like, I don't really need it, but it's not worth returning, so you throw it out. We've thrown out groups of people in this country. And when we throw them out with the school system, with our transportation system, right? And again, it all comes back to trash for me, because everything is on its way to be trash. And so in Newark, in our garbage incinerator, Covanta, my favorite villain of the story, I mean, they couldn't be a more perfect villain. It's an incinerator that looks like the Castle of Doom. So if you've ever been driving in New Jersey on the turnpike, and you're like, man, Newark stinks. It's your stuff that I'm like, oh, should I curse? Should I not? There's kids. I don't see no kids. Okay, I curse a lot, all right? I do. It's just, like, I'm not trying to be polished, because I never tried to figure out how to fit into white society properly, right? Like, I just said, nah, it's not for me. I just won't make it. And that's where I figured I would stay. But in Newark, when people are driving over, I've heard the comments everywhere I go, right? Like, Newark stinks. But what hurts me, I guess, is it's not Newark that stinks, right? Newark has become the dumping ground for our regional society here to not have to actually take responsibility, to not have to worry about it. So that you can have a pristine suburb, you need a place like Newark. We're an essential part of society, right? Because we need somewhere to burn out trash, to create our energy. I know a lot of people feel so good about electricity. There is an intimate connection between our energy system and our waste system, right? Our incinerator gets renewable energy credits. So every time you feel good about the renewable energy portfolio in New Jersey, you're feeling good about the fact that since 2004, our incinerator has qualified for credits despite over 800 violations. And Earth Justice can fact check. I don't know the exact number of violations, but they've been able to violate over and over again, right? To the point that they were burning, I remember, Anna called me, Dr. Baptista, right? She calls me and she's like, have you seen the incinerator today? And I was like, well, it's Sunday, you know, like, why is a person calling me to ask me if I've seen the incinerator today? Like, my job, it's not a job, it's a lifestyle, okay? That's what it means to do this well, but she's calling me on a Sunday asking me if I've seen the incinerator. But I was in my mom's house in West New York, which also has terrible air quality. So I don't play no, like, what black and brown neighborhood has it worse than the others. I point my gun at the real enemies, the people that did this to us, right? And so I was in West New York. I'm like, I'm not even in town, but I'll drive back on the Pulaski and check out the incinerator. When I drove back home, it was still burning pink. I was like, what is this, a bad gender reveal? Is the incinerator participating in some gender reveal party? Because that's just weird, right? Like, that's just, I'm not here for the gender binary, but now incinerators in it? So it was weird, and I drove my car right up to it. I'm like, oh, it's making noises, right? Like, I have to do weird things in my job, like call the Department of Environmental Protection, something that actually was fundamental for me in my job, right? I came to my job a little doe-eyed, feeling like, oh, I could write some racial justice curriculum. I'm not even sure if I'm gonna stay at ICC. I'm just gonna, like, do a curriculum consulting gig, because I thought I could stay a free agent. And here I am 10 years later, so that didn't work out for me. But when I was there, I'll never forget being at the community garden on Cortlandt Street, and we're wrapping up. You know, it's been a fun day. We've hung out with chickens and kids and not done things about waste, but just growing food. And someone's saying, we have to call that in. I'm like, why? Like, that's a normal smell. I had grown up my whole life smelling that. So it was kind of scary to me, like, we have to call that in? Wait a second, there's a place you call in environmental violations? What happens? Like, does the police come out? Like, I was confused. And my coworker said to me, nothing's gonna happen. Nothing's gonna happen, but we have to call it in. And I was like, why would we do something if nothing's gonna happen, right? Because again, like, I grew up in a certain place. So I was like, why would we do something if nothing's gonna happen? Like, that seems ridiculous. We're just trying to create a record. And I realized that our form of organizing is like really nose to the grind, right? It's not sexy. A lot of the work that we have to do to combat the injustices against us are often just to bear witness, right? To make sure that there's a record. So, because they might kill us. They probably will kill us because we're not changing society fast enough. But what we cannot let happen is we can't let them say that we wanted it. We can't let them say that we never said anything, you know? That our work is actually about writing history. And if you don't participate in writing history, it will get written without you. You know, I realize that we have to take agency in our work. Because a lot of us are punks, all right? Let me just be clear. I have been doing this work now and realizing that people organize and they just like to run their mouths, right? They don't want to do the hard work. And the hard work is really not glamorous. That was disappointing a little bit, but I'm shy. I know it's hard to believe. But I realized that the hard work is the behind the scenes work that nobody sees, right? It's not just being up here talking, trying to entertain a rather large crowd, right? Making sure that you're all having fun. It is calling it in when it smells bad. It is going to my neighbor and convincing my neighbor who the system has failed over and over again why they should participate. Because that's a system design, right? That we don't participate. That we've said, man, fuck voting. I have people in my neighborhood that don't want to get counted in the census. Because they're like, nah, man, that's Big Brother. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And guess what? You're on your phone all the time. So what you worried about, all right? What are you worried about with Big Brother counting on you? This is not the time to take that stand. We need to be counted in the census because that's how our public schools get funded. White folks in middle class and upper class communities get counted and then they get well funded because there is a formula. You know, this idea that we're powerless no matter what we do is the system working perfectly, right? Because if all of us are convinced that we're powerless, then they don't have to even deal with us. They can just leave us in our neighborhoods to die. And so that's why the work of environmental justice, of fighting the incinerator, right? Something that's just like, it seems inevitable, right? Well, we have to throw out our trash. Something has to happen. But I come from a country where I thought we were uncivilized, right? Because we burn out trash in the backyard. There is no like municipal waste system. So I realized that contrast. In this society, we act like we're civilized, but certain communities get to throw away their trash and never think about it. And then we burn over 1 million tons of trash in one place, right? Well, it's 1 million tons of pollution that we create in one place, in one neighborhood. In the Ironbound, there's the largest garbage incinerator. There's also 3 damn power plants. So when you feel good about your EVs or, oh, I charged it up, it's renewable, that electricity is coming from somewhere, right? And we're skipping steps, and we're only skipping steps because we don't know people like us in this room, right? That have to bear the brunt of that electrification. There should be no talk of electrifying everything until we deal with our grid. We have a filthy grid that's still making electricity off incinerators, biogas, natural gas. Who sold you that? That's just methane, right? Like, we're burning methane and calling that a good source. It's a little better than coal, you know? So I would say, you know, I guess I'm supposed to be inspirational. That's what you're supposed to do when you do a keynote. But, you know, like, leave all that individual stuff behind because we're in the deep trouble right now. Our enemies are trying to separate us, right? Our communities. I am so deeply thankful that in Newark, we've managed to stick together. And that's not always been the history. Because, you know, and we could speak on it, right? Like in Newark, wards have been placed against each other. They've been pitted against each other so that the small political power is able to just use them against each other and not really give anybody anything. You know, but with the South Ward Environmental Alliance, we've really created a good bond of sticking up for each other. So thank you all for that. You know, they've come out to fight our power plant. Because guess what? Our power plant would just be located in our neighborhood, but it's going to affect our whole city. And so in the city of Newark, I've been so inspired to see us all coming together against the right people. Which moves me to the last part, right, that I had on my little notes of like, I hope you do a better job as an activist or an organizer. And I do say that there's a difference between an activist and an organizer. At Ironbound Community Corporation, I tell people we have to be an organizer, right? Activists don't have to be accountable. Let's just be real about that, right? You can just run your mouth. You don't have to actually change anything, right? If you're an activist, you're just kind of participating. But if you're an organizer, you should hold yourself to the standard of what is the material change I'm doing for Black and brown people. It can't just be about me saying the right words for people, okay? And we cannot be misled by false prophets that talk a great game, but you have to look at the material changes that they've made for people, right? Have you changed the rules? Have you moved the money? You know, because that's the stuff our community actually needs. Or you changing the story. I take these from the Climate Justice Alliance, right? Which are 4 wonderful strategies. Growing the bigger we, connecting with others. That's like so fundamentally important. And figuring out where to aim all this energy and rage, right? Because I see a lot of people organizing in the wrong place. You know, and I tell that to all folks in the city all the time. You're really mad at the city, but this is actually something that the state did, you know? Or you think that the police are gonna come for this, but this is actually a code enforcement issue. So being able to help people direct their energy appropriately, I know in the other panels we were learning about like the Waste Commission, right? Like there are so many, the bureaucracies have created like a specialty that leaves us out. And that's why spaces like what New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance are providing for our communities are so essential, right? To be able to learn who to be mad at appropriately. Because we can't just be mad waving our guns in the air. Like they have to actually be our rage and focus on the right enemy. You know? And so we need to kind of cut it out because we're running out of time on climate change. And so when it happens, as climate change has been happening, because our community has been aware of climate change forever. We didn't just wake up. We've been the canaries on this, right? Because in places like the Ironbound, we flood if it's 10 minutes of rain. I'm not waiting for us to get more rain because our neighborhood might not exist anymore. And so this has been actually an existential fight, right? Of trying to get people to stop power plants, transition from dirty energy, and getting the rest of the environmental world to take it seriously, right? And so through that, obviously we passed the EJ law. That was incredibly important. And we did that with New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance and Clean Water Action. And that was incredibly important, changing the fundamental rules about how decisions get made. So, I don't know. I'm here to talk about waste. Bring it back to the trash, even though I'm like, oh, trash again. We need to think about a future beyond it. And I would be mad at myself if I didn't leave, if I didn't say, forget your tote bags, man. Forget recycling, and actually put your energy into civic participation. Because we actually have to build political power. This is not just about making people feel good. Okay? And we spend too much time trying to make individuals feel good. And I can't stress to you that that's the most American thing ever. That the idea that one person is going to change everything. Okay? There are no superheroes here. There's only community. And we cannot sacrifice the greater good for one person and you. Okay? It has to be we. And it has to be about the greater team. Right? Like, who's the team behind you? Or people are actually at your meetings? Because if no one's at your meetings, who are you preaching to? You know? Like, get more serious about your turnout, about making sure that new people are in those seats, not just like your 4 friends that you've convinced that you're the prophet for. If your message isn't resonating with hundreds of people, with thousands of people, that's why the other side is winning, right? They're worried about bringing new people in to create more hatred in the world. And so our side needs to be just as passionate about civic participation and getting our message out, right? About a new world where no society and no person is disposable, right? And so that only happens when we stick together, hang out in rooms like this. I'm sorry for the lecture. It's kind of what I was asked to do. It's not my style. But thank you for coming here. I think that that's an important first step. And then don't leave without making a new friend, about making a new commitment to show up for somebody else, right? To go to their meeting and find out what the real issue is. And then get that issue solved. Because, and I tell this to my team, does anybody like hanging out with losers, right? I don't want to be a loser. I think it is our responsibility to win. And I don't know if as a real movement, we've been taking that seriously, winning. Okay, there are trillions of dollars right now in the national government. And that's not something to laugh at, because a lot of our organizations have been starving for funding, right? Needing funding to hire Black and brown people into the environmental justice space. And so if we're not bringing in that funding, getting the government to actually do its job of taking care of our communities, holding them accountable and watching what they're doing, then we're just going to repeat the same thing that we did after the Great Depression, where there was all that investment, but it only went to white communities. There's no one that's going to save us. There are no superheroes. Only we can save ourselves, right? So I hope you'll be part of that greater we. And I think I'm supposed to take questions, so let's do that.
The floor is yours, Maria. So if anybody has any questions for Maria, feel free to raise your hand so I bring the mic for you. Or any thoughts, comments, feedback.
Who do you think is the most powerful garbage enemy we have right now that we should be targeting our rage at?
Yeah, I talked for 20 minutes. I didn't mention Covanta, who Covanta owns. And guess what? The county of Essex County is invested in Covanta. I think that's important for us to know. It is our county money that subsidizes our own poison, right? And they went and bailed them out. And that's where you learn that the county bailed out the garbage incinerator. Because the garbage incinerator, we keep trying to make it expensive for them to run. Our strategy is not a secret. Maybe it should be, but it's not a secret. We're trying to price them out of business because garbage incineration has to be subsidized. And so throughout New Jersey, we're actually subsidizing a lot of incinerators because counties, again, that's where we have power, right? At the local level, counties keep incentivizing the existence of incinerators. We've locked ourselves into a death spiral. But incinerators are only meant to last about 30 years, right? Our incinerator is more than 30 years old, so it's gonna start breaking down. In Doral, Florida, their Covanta burned down to the ground, right? But you can imagine what that smelled like for the local community. Because don't think about our residential trash. That's a small portion of total trash. Most of the trash is actually commercial trash. So Lord knows what the incinerator is burning. When it created purple and pink skies, Covanta really tried to tell us that they were just burning a bottle of iodine, as if we're dumb, right? Because they see black and brown faces across the table, and they're like, these people are dumb. I know that the school system failed them, but we might not be, formally educated, but we're not suckers, And so we didn't buy that. We had to take that all the way. They were burning fertilizer trash in the incinerator and medical waste that they are not regulated to burn, right? So yeah, Covanta's our biggest enemy. They see themselves as a predator. Melissa and I have sat across the table where the representative for Covanta, he was trying to create a regular meeting on the calendar with me, right? And we're all debating in the room. He's like, why won't y'all, the ICC, as people call us, why won't the ICC meet with us regularly? And I was like, why? Are we solving something? Is there a purpose to these meetings? I don't want to just hang out with the garbage incinerator. I do know enough that you don't hang out with the enemy because they're going to act like we're friends, right? And they were like, well, I have a daughter. If a predator moved in across the street, I'd want to keep my eye on them. And I was like, okay, thank you. Thank you for saying that. I wouldn't have coffee once a month with the predator. And I would keep my eye on them, something that the ICC does. We keep an eye on our neighbors at Covanta. So yeah, that's my Covanta story. Any other questions? And you're sitting there. If you are wondering, just ask. That's how we all learn.
Oh, I see a hand. And also, we can probably think of Covanta as a whole predator, too.
So, as you said at the beginning, a lot of us aren't from Newark, but I've seen a lot of success with ICC mobilizing the Newark community to go to hearings on the EJ regulations, for the Covanta hearings. What lessons can we take back to our communities to mobilize them in the same way? What's the best advice that you can give us to make that happen and to get people to do that civic engagement and go to those hearings?
Yeah, and I've been seeing powerful organizing online right now for Palestine, right? And it is powerful when we think about what is done in our name. And then think about where you have the most power. And, I say it, we throw ourselves as the biggest target, right? And I actually think that power building is a layer building strategy, right? We can't just be oh, I'm gonna go here. We have to figure out where can I change things immediately to me. And what I'm sad about is how often the average resident of this country fails to understand the power of their municipality, the power of their county. Federal resources flow from the federal government. 90% of those resources come to the state level. right? That means that 90% of all those trillions that we were talking about with IRA and BUILD and all of that, that's actually coming through the state of New Jersey. Have you heard the state of New Jersey talking about equity and justice? Not at all. Governor Murphy's out here trying to act like he's the greenest governor since whenever, and that he cares about black and brown folks. And you know, they always come to us to save them during an election. But in between the election is actually when we need to be activated, watching what people are doing. And then the state will wash its hands, because it'll say, well, I gave the money to your county. Were you at your county meeting watching those budget proceedings happen? Have you been in contact with your elected officials? Have you ever asked for a meeting with them? Because I've been learning, I'm always learning in this job. Anytime that we ask a bureaucracy for a meeting, they actually have to give it to us, because they have to respond to the public, right? And so when you're organized, you know, it doesn't have to be a lot of people. I mean, when we helped stop Terrell Homes, a public housing complex in the city of Newark, in our neighborhood, we helped stop the complete demolition of Terrell Homes, and we did it with 4 people, okay? It wasn't like, some things are about like glamorized mobilizing. These were 4 dedicated women who, you know, most have passed since we started that campaign, right? It was just 4 people causing trouble at the right meetings, because we were always at the city hall, and then we would go to the Newark Housing Commissioners meeting. So figure out, if you're not gonna be like organizing hundreds, figure out your 4 and go cause good trouble at the right meetings, right? Because then other people are gonna see you. If you're really looking energized, they'll see you and they'll be like, I like what you're doing. You know, people do that to us all the time at ICC, at the zoning board meetings. You know, we've been able to help other wards be like, oh yeah. Because if you don't show up, they make the decision for you, and then they'll say that that's what you wanted. But you weren't there to correct the record, right? Yes. Where's Chris? Chris, where'd you go? Oh, there's one over there, and then we got you.
Who am I giving the mic to? Oh, Renee.
First of all, I want to say thank you for being authentic and being unapologetically you. Because we need that. We need that. And I'm not sure, you remind me a lot of me. I'm probably older than you, but you remind me a lot of a younger me. And I just want to know, how do you convince others who come from marginalized communities, who believe that going along to get along and crumbs are what we should be after? Because I think a lot of people don't realize what they get as crumbs. They might give you a little $2,000 for a sports jersey, or let you use a facility to have a little luncheon or something, or give you $1,000 and think that's supposed to shut you up. And I'm just saying, from a black woman's perspective, if I speak like you speak, I'm angry. I'm not passionate. I'm not down for the community. And oftentimes people who look like me will shy away from me, because to be connected to me gets in the way of their $1,000. Or maybe I'm asked, well, can't you just get along with that person? And for me, that person is selling us out. So no, I can't get along with them. No, I can't be their friend. No, I can't compromise. So I don't know, what do you do if you do get away with who you are?
Oh, I don't get away with it. I don't get away with it. And let's be clear here too, right? Because I think this black and brown dynamic is set up, right, in Newark all the time. And we have to share more about stories, of how hard it is. And honestly, there's a lot of personal beatings I take. I've been called the savage. Like, why didn't the Latinos come out for that? Like, you know, and somehow held responsible for a whole community of people that what they did or did not do. I have been excluded from rooms, thrown out of rooms that, you know, I was the main pusher for, and then the table is getting negotiated and I'm out the room. And I have to figure out how to get back in the room. But I do know this, right? No matter what the personal beating is, my job, I think, as an EJ leader, is to eat the shit. Sometimes they serve you a nice hot pile. And as a leader, you do have to eat it and make it look graceful, right? It's not always, like I said, it's not glamorous, actually. The idea of being myself and being unapologetically myself means that I am gonna take blows. And you know, this is interesting because it's kind of mixed company. So I'm on the line here, but like, there's things that I try to talk about and make it very clear for folks so that we know what we're getting ourselves into. Because if we're going to be visionary, I do think that we're going to take private blows as black and brown people. I mean, I come from a country that the United States used as its death camp headquarters, right? In Honduras, I come from Central America. That was the most dangerous country in the world for over a decade. And that was all done by the United States. And so for me, my analysis of race is very much like, I'm here, and I don't want to, like, no, I'm not no American dream person. I'm here because of this imperial country killing people in mind and putting our lives at risk. And then, I mean, why would I leave paradise to come to the Northeast? No offense, you know? But like, it's cold. It's cold and it smells and it's all concrete. You know, it's not where my people are from. It's not where my village is from. But what I've learned though is how we have to build black and brown solidarity and not other each other, right? But we don't share our stories enough with each other to know that we go through pains and they do look differently. You know, I'm never gonna say that they're the same, but we need to acknowledge those different pains so that then, you know, we can both be angry together at these people and help mobilize others. And in terms of people taking chump change, I'll be honest, it might be controversial. I don't judge people for selling out. You know, I'm just telling them, can you sell out a little higher? Like, come on, man. Can it be a good going rate? If I'm gonna sell out, and I'm not gonna stand here and be like, I'm full of integrity. I will never sell out, because we don't know each other's circumstances. You don't know what that community member is going through, and if that $1,000 was what they needed to pay rent to not get evicted. And we don't, because society is so messed up to all of us, we trying to front like we got it all the time, and we don't got it. You know, I don't got it. I come from cycles of poverty that I'm trying to break, right? And like maybe if I got the right offer, but I promise you one thing, I will never sell out low. You know, like I'm gonna try to raise the going rate, because that's the thing that we need to tell folks. You could have got more. We are worth more than the crumbs that they give us. The fact that they try to bribe us is because they know that we could have political power if we like looked alive, right? But yeah, I don't judge people, and I don't tell them, I can't believe you did that, because I'm not trying to cause that beef, you know, and we do that in our communities, and now what? Now we fighting each other? How does that serve anybody? You know, me judging the person that sold out for that turkey dinner. I have to go and show them that there is more that we can get if we stick together, right? Like the power of collective bargaining, of having earned more, and of expecting more. Because sometimes that person just didn't even ask for anything, right? But I'm not gonna go and fight them. Because any time that we spent fighting each other, the system is getting away and, you know, exploiting us even more. So just, you know, I try to have compassion, if that's a good answer.
I just want to applaud you in your activism and organizing. Being part of the South Ward Environmental Alliance, I'm new to the space, and it was not until we went down there to support you against that refinery. They were trying to, what do you call it?
The power plant.
Power plant, yeah. And I walked in the community with you and smelled that disastrous odor, and then saw the flooding. It rang a bell. And what happened, sometimes it may not be in my community today, but trust me, it's coming. And I think what you said perfectly was that they purposely pit us against one another so that we're not focused. And now I understand what you said today, it's not about activism. That's good, because that's only one person. But we need to organize, and I think it's so great to organize, because a lot of people really don't know. Yeah. You know, they're dying and don't know why they're dying.
Yeah.
And so what happened, those who have been invited to this space and who have volunteered to be in this space, we now became activists, but now we're organizers because we understand the difference. Yeah. I can be angry in my ward, and you be angry in your ward, but until we come together, we'll be angry together and combine our angry attitude and our activism and let it become collective, then that's when we'll see progress being made. So I just want to thank you and your organization.
No, thank you. Damn, I say that was beautiful. That was the final word right there. Thank you. You know, like, thank y'all. And thank you for marching with us. Like, that felt even if we don't win sometimes, just the act of us being together, like that's what a lot of people talk about radical love. Radical love means we're gonna have to forgive each other a lot and forgive even our allies a lot, because people are gonna make mistakes. We cannot be so like, oh, we're gonna be militant with who? With ourselves, with each other? That's who we're gonna be militant with? No, love each other in our communities. Fight the enemy and really pay attention to who the real enemy is, where the real system is, okay? And then maybe we'll end Covanta and some other stuff, because it's not just Covanta, right? It's capitalism, it's exploitation, and we're gonna build a society where black and brown people coexist, right? Because we're gonna be the majority soon. So we gotta figure out how to govern and how to take power, because power is not given to you. If you're gonna be a leader, you have to make power so that you can make space for others, right? And if you're not taking that power, then you're not being responsible, and you're still just being an activist, which is okay, because we all start somewhere, right? So I hope you all leave with that fire inside of you to be organizers, because no one can give you that fire. You're not gonna listen to some speech and it's like awaken. You either have that fire and you nurture it in yourself, or you don't, because this is hard work, So I appreciate all you. I'm always here in solidarity. Anything you need, you can Google my phone number online, okay? So someone says they couldn't reach me, that's on them. I appreciate you, thank you, and go ICC, go NJEJA.
One more hand of applause for Maria. Come on, she'd be shy, but she, thank you so much.